So, Renee, thank you so much for taking the time out today to be a part of our community of practice channel here on YouTube. And on behalf of SETSI, we thank you for your leadership today.
Thank you so much for having me with you today.
Awesome. Okay. So, as always, we begin by acknowledging original stewards of the very lands we are on. We also acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So if you could please do us the honors by introducing yourself to our listeners and viewers and tell us about your.
Certainly, my name is Renee Black. I am the founder of Goodbot Society. I've been in the nonprofit tech space for about 15 years now. I previously ran another nonprofit organization called Peace Geeks, working on the intersection of technology and peace. And we had projects working around the world on different issues, but looking at how technology was influencing situations of conflict and also how it could be used in peace building. And it was really very much that experience of working on the role of technology in places affected by conflict that I became very convinced that the governance of technology and AI platforms was essential in order to make sure that we could be benefiting the most from it. So Goodbot really came from that work, and I remain, although we've been focused on Canada, really my goal is to make sure that there's healthy conversations globally around the role of technology and AI in society.
Yes, very, very important. We actually have a whole, also, I'll get Victor to send you the invite as well. It's our AI committee that we put together for, just to make sure that all data is being shared equally, fairly, justly,
Absolutely.
and things like that. So I'll definitely send that invite out for you as well.
Thank you.
So great. So what inspires you about the work that you do?
Well, I mean, I think at this moment in time, there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of narratives about the way the world is going to be heading, and it's really pretty overwhelming with the political situation south of the border. It's pretty overwhelming with the way that the concentration of power occurs within companies that I find, that I might find insurmountable, big, in this normalization of societal harm, this sort of embedding of sort of bias and racism and harm in different forms, including the form of hallucinations and AI models, into these tools in ways that are often hard to see and hard to perceive. Um, Especially because the tools are changing so quickly. And and so it's like even if you do an audit, because they are shape shifting. They are literally shape shifting. They're responding to who we are. They're responding to the inputs that are going into those systems, and so it makes it even more challenging around that. Now, trying to get back to the question of what inspires me, I think. In this moment, what I see is how many people are committed to making sure that the reality that we are heading towards is not the reality of the tech bros. It's the reality of the many. It's the reality of like what does society look like when people are in charge rather than when technology is in charge. And when I see how many people are um, trying very innovative, different angles to try to move towards a very different future than the narratives of the tech bros. And when I see all the ways that those come together in big and small ways, that's where I really find inspiration and hope in this moment.
Very good, very good. So let me flip it. What are some of the challenges or barriers that you face, and how were you able to overcome them, or in the process of overcoming them?
Yeah, I think that I mean, I can answer that in a couple of different ways. From a personal point of view, having run a nonprofit organization for 10 years that I had founded, um, you know, it's a lot of work to found a new organization like this. And I didn't know that I had it in me to start a second organization. And I had to spend a lot of time just reflecting on what worked and what didn't work, And I think I was really caught in the fear of making the same mistakes again. And so a lot of that was about being very honest about the mistakes I did make the first time around. I mean, I think, and then actually embracing the fact that mistakes are part of the learning journey. You know, we're not going to get this all right the first time. We are going to make mistakes. And so the question is not whether or not we're going to make mistakes, it's whether we can build on the lessons we learn from them. So for me, that was a really big part of my journey, and even knowing whether or not I could start a new organization. I think that the other part of, this particular issue set is that it is so complicated. What is happening with AI, what's happening with digital platforms. Every day there's a new platform. Every day there's a new issue. There's a new story in the newspaper that you haven't heard of before, or it's like deepening something that you've already heard of before. And again, that can be really overwhelming. And so I really at the beginning struggled with the question of, if I can't talk about this in a coherent way, how can I expect other people to be able to grasp what's going on and be able to engage with it? And so that was really one of the big challenges that I ended up having to take on for myself personally before I was felt like I was in a position to talk about it really in a context with people who were non-experts, which is really we there's a lot of conversations around technology and AI that are technology and policy experts talking to one another, and that is really not going to get us where we need to go. We need a lot more people involved in these conversations, and so really that was my goal. It was making sure that I could not be overwhelmed by it myself, so that I could talk to other people about these issues without overwhelming them too.
Very, very good point, because people like yourself can filter that down to just the common community, right? To know the basics, because a lot of times, like especially when it comes to data and not understanding that data is the new gold, what does that mean for my personal information, your personal information, mom and pop's personal information going into the data systems and those, and then into AI and going on from different tech spaces and that. So that's so important. That's so key.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very good. So, is there anything that you want to amplify at this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things that we have going on right now. So we're about to actually release a paper on lobbying in Canada around technology, and it may be coming out through Goodbot, but it may be coming out through a journal. And really, the point here is to just flag all the ways in which companies are influencing policy in Canada and everywhere really, in ways that are not. Well understood and are not covered by our current policies. And just this again is really important just because if we, if we want to have public voices balancing out the corporate voices that are influencing our policy, and making sure that policies that are being developed in uh, in a public interest, and that public interest is informed by a very wide range of voices in Canada, including people who have been marginalized. We definitely need to be making sure that we understand what balancing those voices looks like. And right now, when we don't even have a clear picture of how much influence companies have on policy, it's impossible to even really answer that question in a meaningful way. So, so we think that Canadians and citizens everywhere should be having a lot more say in the policies that are being developed, that sort of are subjecting them to the technology of this moment in time. And so that component is one. So it's just one about understanding what the landscape of that influence is. But then the second part is also, how do we make sure that citizens and educators and nonprofit leaders and everybody feel like they have what they need to be able to engage in a meaningful conversation. So that's another component that we work on, is on some of the capacity building programs that we have, and it's really about how do we try to give some frameworks to deepen your own understanding of how some of these issues are impacting in the communities that you work in. And then also, we have a train the trainer model that's very much intended to be about how do you explore in a more community focused way what how some of the issues that we talk about show up in your community, because we want local people or people working on specialized topics to be able to have a broad understanding of a wide range of issues and how they connect. But really, we also want the community leaders to become the deep experts, and then really being able to surface those issues at the community level and host conversations so that there's the ability to navigate whether and how when it comes to technology.
Fabulous. That's really good. Renee, this is so important. It's such an important topic because AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's just going to get more advanced and more advanced. And we need to know the basics now before it gets we're too submerged into it,
Yeah.
Cash is still king, yeah, we're still, we're tapping, but then we see things that are coming into fruition. We see things that are coming into play. So, my parents still go to the bank for everything, so that's still is a thing here. It's still something that goes on. So community needs to know all these things. So we appreciate everything that you're doing and your organizations, that you are really putting that passion and that purpose into your work. So if you can leave us with your closing thoughts and calls to actions at this time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my calls to action is both to kind of make sure that you are deepening the knowledge, finding ways that feel relevant to you, and to look at who's doing some really great work. Like just because I'm talking to Setsi, I do want to amplify that there's a lot of really amazing Black leaders in the AI space who are doing incredibly important work around tech accountability and social justice work, and making sure that the models are being developed in ways that are going to be, again, beneficial to everyone. And some of them have been the Timnit Gebru, of course, is one of the folks around that who wrote a very important paper a few years ago while she was working with Google, and was subsequently fired for that. So I mean, I think looking at her research is really important. Joy Bul, I always get her name wrong. Joy Bulwa Mimi. Wimi, who wrote Unmasking AI, she's a really important leader in a lot of these conversations, and there's many others. And I really encourage to kind of go out and take a look at some of the incredibly important work that they're doing to make sure that AI and digital tools are being evolved in ways that are thoughtful and meaningful, and are not just replicating and systematizing discrimination and bias into the tools that are being developed. And I'm happy to share a few more names and links and resources if that's useful.
Excellent. Well, definitely, like I said, we have our AI form that we do, and I'll make sure that Victor sends an invite to you so you can definitely add your very important pieces to this puzzle. So we thank you so much for your time, your leadership in this. It's the ever evolving sector. And we will leave the way that we began, by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we are on. We also acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So Renee, once again, we'll definitely be in touch. We thank you so much again for this today.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.